How's it going, everybody? What we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to take a look at a expansion off of these piecewise functions where we're going to go ahead and create the functions, okay? So we're going to be given the graph and now we're going to create the functions, okay? So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and still write in our boundary lines. Our first boundary line, you'll notice, is right about here. And then we have another boundary line. I'll try to make that a little bit better. Probably zoom in a little bit. And then I've got my next boundary line right here. Okay, so we're going to be using those boundary lines, okay, in creating our function. And I'll go ahead and start off by using that special notation where we say f of x, okay, is equal to, and then these two functions, okay? Now, the first thing we have to do when trying to write a equation, okay, for a line, is we have to identify the y-intercept. So looking at this first line, okay, right here, and I'll go ahead and highlight it so we all are on the same page. This line right here, this one in green. Where is the y-intercept? Well, it appears to me the y-intercept is at 4, okay? It's right there at 4, and to be even more specific, right there, okay? So that's going to go ahead and be my plus 4, okay? But that does not talk about the slope. The slope is between those individual lines, and if we look individual points, and if we look at those individual points, I go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, okay? And so that means I have a slope of 2x, okay? So that right there is my first equation. Now let's talk about where he's restricted. Where is his boundaries? Well, it looks like he's coming from negative infinity, okay, all the way to that boundary line, right, which is at positive 2. So we would say negative infinity to positive 2. Now, of course, we're going to put a parenthesis around it because we have an open circle, okay? Remember, if I've got an open circle right here, I have to put a parenthesis. So that goes ahead and creates our first function. Now let's take a look at the second one. The second one, you'll notice, we don't get to have that luxury of seeing him cross the y-axis. But if we were to see him continued, right? I'll go ahead and highlight him gold. If we were to see him continue to come across, we would notice that he crosses the graph, okay, right there, okay? Now, what is that y value? Well, that y value is negative 2. Okay, so we can go ahead and say that we have a negative 2. However, does this line have a slope, though? And the answer is no, right? It doesn't have a slope, so then you're done. It's just negative 2. But where is he restricted? Well, it looks like he's restricted at 2 to, looks like about, I would say 8. Now, let's talk about what is the, if we're going to have parentheses or brackets. Well, it looks like here, for the first one, we have a solid dot, so we have a bracket. And then we have an open circle for the next part, so we have a parenthesis, okay? So that's right there. That's how we create those equations, okay? So let's go ahead and do another example, okay? Take a look at this guy. Now, this one has 3 separate sections, okay? So just to kind of highlight what we're talking about, and I'll go ahead and probably zoom in a little bit so we can definitely get them correctly, is I have this one right here and this one right here. Now you might be wondering, Mr. Farmer, how did you know that's where to draw your red lines? Well, the reason I drew my lines there is because you'll notice that this first one, okay, his slope changes right at that dot. So that tells me that that's a brand new function, and I have a new one starting from negative 5 all the way to positive 5. And you'll notice, once again, the slope will change, giving me my third and final function, okay? So it's all about looking and seeing, where does the slope change, okay? It changes at those points, okay? So let's go ahead and still look at the first one, okay? We'll zoom out a little bit. So for our notation, let's go ahead and put our f of x is equal to, okay? And it looks like, okay, now once again, we don't have the luxury of seeing that blue graph go all the way to the y, but if we were to continue the slope, we would have up 1 over 1, 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 until we notice that his y would have been right over here, okay? What is that point? Well, that's at 9. So the slope for this one is going to be x plus 9, okay? Because the slope was up 1 over 1. Now let's take a look at the green one. Now this one is very kind to us because we do have the luxury of seeing it cross the y-axis. And it crosses at 4, right? So here we're going to say 4. But does this one have a slope though? The answer is no, right? It does not have a slope. So it's just 4. So we're good there. But now let's take a look at the yellow one. Now make sure you're listening closely, okay? Because if we look at this one, okay, the slope that I'm seeing is I'm going down 1, 2, 3 over 1, down 1, 2, 3 over 1. So it looks like my slope is a negative 3x, okay? But now we have to figure out, where does he cross the y? Well, if I were to keep going up, I'd go 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1. But then I run out of spaces. Like, I'm not able to go ahead and actually see the rest of the graph because I only have a 10 by 10. So this is what we have to do, okay? Notice where this point is right here, okay? Where I'm coloring it in yellow. How far from the 0, okay, how far from here is he? Well, if I were to go to the left, I'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? I'm 5 away from my y-axis, okay? I'm 5 away. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to take my slope and I'm going to multiply it by 5. Now I'm going to take the absolute value of my slope. So I'm going to do 3 times 5. Now what is 3 times 5? That's 15, okay? Now, I'm then going to ask myself, how high was this function originally, okay? Where was, and to be more specific, okay, on where I'm talking about, how high in the air was this dot, this red dot right here? Well, he was originally already vertically, he was already up 4, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 15 plus my 4, and that's going to equal 19. That is going to be where the yellow would cross the y-axis, okay? It is at 19, okay? Now, that right there would go ahead and create, okay, my piecewise function system, okay? But now I got to go ahead and create my boundaries. Now, my boundaries, okay, are going to be from negative infinity to negative 5. And then for the 4, I have from negative 5 to positive 5. And then I have, oh, and don't forget you got to put brackets for these, right? I got to back up here. And also bracket for this guy. Let me go ahead and do a better job there. Let me erase. Mr. Farmer got ahead of himself there, got carried away. And then for the last but not least one, we also have a closed circle there at 5. So we have from 5 to positive infinity, okay? So that right there is going to conclude this video, okay, on creating equations with given the actual graph itself, okay? And let me zoom on out so you can see the whole thing, okay? Alrighty, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. Alrighty, bye.